We have learned to perform effort much better than we have learned to actually do it. And there's one question that exposes the difference very quickly. If you were alone in a room and there was no audience, no boss to impress, no friend to talk about it, and no camera to record what you're doing, no one, absolutely no one waiting to praise you for trying hard. Would you still try? Would you still do the work? That is the question that strips all the theater and performance away. Because if the answer is yes, then you actually want the result. But if the answer is no, then maybe what you wanted was not change or the result itself. Maybe what you wanted was to be seen as someone who deserved this result. And I understand why people do this, because honest measurement is not really comfortable. It takes the story out of your hands. You no longer have the power to control it. It does not care how badly you wanted something or how difficult the process felt, how tired you looked. It asks a different question, much colder one. It asks, did anything change? And that question is uncomfortable. So we reach for visible struggle because this visible struggle feels safer than visible measurement. If the suffering is obvious enough, maybe no one will ask whether the work actually produced anything. But true effort is not and should not be a plea for sympathy. Effort is a responsibility, a declaration that binds you to the result. Effort that is just performed replaces the work that should produce results with the visible shape of that work. It is the grimace, the exhaustion, the speech you give about being busy and tired, the story of how much everything cost you. It asks to be graded and treated like success while producing none of the evidence that success leaves behind it. And this performed effort usually needs a witness, someone you actually perform it for. And that's the first sign, because real work can happen in silence. It can happen when you are alone and unseen, without anyone there to nod, praise, pity, or confirm that you are the kind of person who really tries. If the result is what you want, the work does not need to be constantly announced. But if the image is what you want, then someone has to see it. And this is why performed effort is so often sold. It is sold through stories about how much we are doing. It is sold through our complaints about how hard everything is. It is the dramatic training session where you scream and everyone turns their heads. It's the constant reminder that we are overwhelmed, underappreciated, and still somehow pushing through. And sometimes it is not even really a lie. Maybe we did train once or twice. Maybe we did study for a bit. And maybe we did really stay late. But the problem is that this one act gets stretched into an identity. One workout becomes 3 weeks of talking about discipline. One long day becomes proof that you are always sacrificing yourself. One attempt becomes evidence that you deserve the result before the result actually exists. That is the theater. The issue is not that people struggle. Struggle is part of doing hard things. The issue is selling this struggle as if it were the same thing as progress. The issue is needing an audience for the suffering while avoiding the question that actually matters. Did anything change? Because if the work is real, something should eventually change. Maybe not instantly, and maybe not easily, and maybe not at the same speed as someone else who tries to do the same thing. But over enough repetitions, real effort does leave evidence behind. Your strength improves, or skill sharpens, behavior changes, Simply put, something moves. Whereas performed effort wants the credit before the evidence is there. It wants people to say, look how hard he tried, instead of them asking, why did nothing change? It wants sympathy to replace measurement, and it wants the appearance of sacrifice to excuse the absence of result. But there's a more honest sentence available. I wanted the result, but I was not willing to pay the full price. There's no shame in that. Not every goal is worth the cost, and not every mountain needs to be climbed. But there's a shame in pretending that you are climbing this mountain while standing at the bottom, being breathless from telling everyone how steep it looked and how unfair the conditions were, and how much harder it was for you than for everyone else. Performed effort does not only hide our failures, it builds an identity around them. It builds the identity around the claim that failure was unavoidable. And the lie is quite simple. I did everything in my power. Most of the time, that is not true. It may feel true to some extent, it may sound true after you repeat it often enough, and it may even become socially accepted by the people around you. But if the work were truly being done with enough consistency and honesty over a long enough period of time, and with enough correction being applied, there would usually be evidence behind it. Not perfection, not instant success, but evidence. Something would have moved. The difficult truth is not that you failed, because failure is clean, and failure can be useful. Failure provides us with information. The more painful truth is that you may have never truly tried at the level the desired result required. You trained, sometimes, you ate well on some days, you worked on the project when you felt like it and had no better entertainment available, you studied long enough to say you studied, but unfortunately not long enough to learn, and you were busy enough to feel responsible, but not focused enough to produce anything that mattered. That is the truth that performed effort protects you from. Because once you admit it, the image collapses. You are no longer the person who tried so hard and was denied by circumstance. You are the person who wanted the result, but not the full price of the result. And again, that is not shameful. Some prices are just too high. Some goals are not worth what they demand. A man can honestly say, I wanted this, but I found out I was not willing to sacrifice as much as is required. And there's dignity in that sentence. However, there is no dignity in pretending. I am busy is one of the cleanest disguises because almost everyone respects it. It sounds adult, responsible. It sounds like you are making a sacrifice. But busyness can be an excuse masked as responsibility. There's always one more errand to run, one more message, and one more task to complete. One more urgent thing that lets you avoid the work that would actually expose your level of skill. Busyness can make a person look useful without producing anything useful. That is why performed effort is so seductive. Its output is not progress. Its output is social credit. It changes how people see you, not what you are capable of doing. Actual effort is quite different. It exposes the quality of your work. It exposes how much skill you lack and how far you still have to go. It exposes whether the method you are doing works, whether your discipline holds, and whether your desire is real. And also whether your identity can survive contact with this measurement. Performed effort hides behind the story, while actual effort leaves evidence. Aristotle gives us a useful distinction here. There is motion, and then there is actual work. Motion is easy to mistake for progress because it fills the day. It gives you something to point at. You answered the messages, you reorganized the notes, you cleaned your workspace, and you adjusted the plan. You prepared to begin again tomorrow. All of this may be movement, yet none of it is probably the work that needs doing. The difference is direction. Actual work brings something closer to what it is supposed to become. Motion can orbit the task forever without touching the part that truly matters. You can be in motion all day and end the day exactly where you started. Busy, tired, occupied, and without anything changing. This is the cleanest form of productive procrastination. It does not look like laziness. It looks responsible and disciplined. It looks useful, but it keeps you safely outside the confrontation with the real task. In training, this is the difference between going through a workout and actually training. The attendance to the gym or in the gym is not adaptation. Throwing weight around is not practice, and you huffing and puffing is not proof that you are doing the work. The question is whether the session created the right stimulus for the result you claim to want. The same thing applies to writing, business, study, and every other serious pursuit. Planning is not producing, and thinking is not doing. A strategy is not an execution. There is time for planning and preparation, sure, but they only matter if they eventually serve the work that we are doing. If they do not, they become a sophisticated way to remain in motion while avoiding the thing that would create evidence. Not every action brings you closer to what you claim to want. Some actions only protect you from beginning. Actual effort is more uncomfortable than performed effort because actual effort binds you to the result. The output becomes simpler and harsher. Did the work produce results? That question does not care how convincing the story sounds. It does not care how tired we were or how hard the process felt in our own head. It does not care whether the people around us think we are trying our best. And this is why performed effort is much easier. We can always polish the story, add a few details. We can make the struggle sound heavier and more difficult. We can dramatize our sacrifice, and we can receive the credit of effort without ever letting the result judge us. Actual effort does not allow that. Over time, actual effort exposes the quality of the process. If weeks and months pass by and nothing changes, then something in the process is leaking. Maybe the method is wrong, or maybe the work is too inconsistent. Maybe the intensity is too low, but something, somewhere in the process is wrong. And that is not cruelty, that's just information. The comfortable story says, I tried so hard, but it just did not work. Yet, the honest question to replace it with is, what part of the process did I fail to execute properly? And most people prefer the first sentence because it protects pride. It allows them to remain the person who tried genuinely. They tried real hard. And the second sentence is more difficult to chew because it demands responsibility of them. It admits that the result may still be possible, but not at the level that we are currently operating at. Measurement becomes painful when it reveals distance. The physique we said we wanted is not there. The money we claim to be chasing are not in the account. The skill we admired is still not ours. And not because it was impossible, not because there was some giant conspiracy the universe has put in motion against us, but because the price was higher than we were willing to pay at the time. So we hoped that the discount price we offered would be enough, and it was not. That's the confrontation, actual effort creates. It does not only ask whether we worked, it asks whether we worked correctly, consistently, and honestly, and whether we worked long enough for the desired result to even have a chance to appear. Seneca gives us another way to see the same problem. A man can be busy enough to impress everyone around him and still be nowhere. The person who is everywhere and nowhere does not always look lazy. Often he looks diligent. His calendar is full, his days are filled with something that appears to be work. His attention is constantly being claimed by something, but fullness is not direction. There's always another low-impact task available to protect you from the one high-impact task that you keep avoiding. Another meeting, another conversation, and another errand. Another small responsibility that lets you feel useful without forcing you to confront what matters. The important thing cannot live only on whatever scraps of time are left after every smaller demand has been satisfied. A person can become overwhelmed and still not be effective. He can be praised for his endurance while spending years running in circles. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. To be always occupied is not the same as being properly aimed. And if your effort has no aim, it does not matter how full your days are. You are still not moving toward the result you want. The proof of effort is not how much it hurt. It definitely is not how much we say it hurt, because pain can lie and soreness can lie, the hours we put in can lie, a full calendar can lie. Even lost sleep can lie, and all of these things can be used for the social credit of trying when we package them and sell them properly. Even honest sacrifice can lie if the sacrifice is stupid, scattered, or aimed at the wrong thing. The proof of effort is evidence. Immediately, that evidence may be small. Slightly cleaner wrap, a better decision made in shorter amount of time, a smoother process, less hesitation and confusion, more control, a slightly sharper execution than last time. All of that matters. Not every form of proof arrives as a finished result. Sometimes progress is to prove that the effort is real. But over time, across enough repetitions, progress should accumulate into something that's harder to deny. The body changes, the skill improves, the work gets finished, or the behavior shifts. Something becomes different because we showed up and we put the effort in. This is why the result is diagnostic. It does not judge our soul nor our worth and quality as a person. It simply tells us where the process stands. If we have not started, the result will show it. If we started and turned the attempt into a story to tell to our friends, the result will show it too. If we are progressing but not there yet, the result will show that. And if the effort was enough, the result will most definitely show it. But the crowd is not the judge. The result is. That does definitely not mean that circumstances never matter. Of course they matter. People start from different places. Some have more time, more knowledge, more support, better conditions, better health, and better tools available. Reality is not equally distributed, but unequal conditions do not make evidence irrelevant. They only change the timeline we are moving on, the method we should use, and the cost that we need to pay. So when the result does not appear, the useful response is not to perform more suffering or to explain ourselves louder or search for a more sympathetic audience. The useful response is to perform an audit of the process. Was the work inconsistent? Was the method wrong? Was the intensity too low? Did we avoid the uncomfortable part? Or did we mistake planning to do something for actually doing it? Did we confuse being tired with being effective? We need to find the leak, change the process, and keep going. That is the reframe. Not did anyone see, but did anything change? Because that is where the performance ends. The physique simply changes, or it does not. Our skill improves, or it does not. The project we worked on gets finished, or it does not. And all of these things are not cruelty. They are information, and we should use it. Effort is not acting tired for someone else. Effort is doing the work that changes the result.